no savant when it comes to Genshin Impact lore. However, I do enjoy the lore and the story, even if I suck really bad at the game. This is just a silly little theory and my own speculation brought on by a few questions that I had from a few readables. With us finally going to Snezhnaya and seeing the cinematic that was released showcasing the nation and the Tsaritsa herself, seeing this in true Hoyoverse fashion left me with more questions than answers. After watching it a few times, I went back to a few readables that seemed to be tied to the Tsaritsa. Hymns of the Far North prayer song Saralainen, The Pale Princess and the Six Pygmies, and last but not least, the item Anomalious Tree Marrow Volume 3, which, oh my god, that's a mouthful. It's a random drop when you fight Dottore as a weekly boss, but you need 2 other pieces to henshin it into that? With that said, there are so many great creators that have already gone over Hymns of the Far North prayer song Saralainen, but I just wanted to touch up on it briefly so that it's fresh in your memories, and we will look it over really quick. Feel free to pause the video to read it over if you like, or you can just listen to me yap and read it to you, whichever you prefer. I'm an equal opportunity guy. Oh, let not the death pangs you suffered pass on to me, lover of frost and winter. You cheerful, fair, kind-hearted lad, noble born and nobly raised, a gentle and valiant son. Upon the starry steed you rode across the forsaken isle of Hisi and the dark, mist-shrouded lands of Bajola, there to court the daughter of Pakisuko, that peerless beauty, at her home. Then old Pakisuko, servant of our forebears, answered thus: He will grant the young lady's hand in marriage if you should open for him the gates of Bajola. For you were not to go, old Pakisuko would have his gullible daughter suffer the punishment instead. In the dark and folly Bajola, the lord of the 7 calamities carved you into 7 pieces. And that young and pure girl, the daughter of Pakisuko, shall never again be wed. O lost hero, I call upon you by your unspeakable name, you the healer of the world's sorrow and misfortunes. And may your grace still the wild winds of the frigid night, and bring warmth to the young birds huddled on the frozen earth. The name Pakitsuko mentioned is the name of the father in this story, but it also has a meaning in Finnish folklore that can be translated to Father Frost, or what a lot of people in the West would know as Jack Frost. Seems fitting for a figure as such to be the father of Tsaritsa, don't you think? Not only that, but the season of winter in multiple mythos and folklore generally represents death, and Pajola Finnish mythology generally refers to like a mythical and cold region, or can even mean the grim underground of the dead. The next readable is really short, but The Pale Princess and the Six Pygmies seems to touch on, which seems to me like a retelling of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, but instead we get 1 Pale Princess and 6 Pygmies, with the Pale Princess seeming to fit the Tsaritsa herself, and the 6 Pygmies possibly being the other Archons. The part I found interesting about this readable was, the Moonlight Forest was the only place free from the rule of the Night Mother. Only there could the people bask in the bright moonlight and enjoy the grace it brought to living. Everyone in the kingdom of Moonlight Forest was born with fair skin, light-colored hair, and bright blue eyes. Perhaps the constant lack of sunlight and the nourishment of the moonlight was the reason for their beauty, giving them an appearance different from the aberrant creatures lurking at the edge of the forest. Maybe this Night Mother was in reference to the Abyss itself. I just find it interesting that the Abyss Order attempted to steal this book because of an apparent secret that the book contains. However, the secret was never revealed. Now then, for the last readable, An Anomalous Tree Marrow Volume 3, which, per the man, the myth, the legend, Chore himself, and the third was erased for violating the one rule, though the method of that erasure remains a mystery. As for the other 3, I needed only to utter their numbers for her to understand immediately. The pensive silence that followed on her part was quite telling. Really, it must surely stem from her relationship with that 4th descender. And the part that, really stood out there was erased. Not dead. Erased. If the 3rd descender was the person with whom the Tsaritsa lived, he caught onto the trap laid bare and suggested himself to be the person to traverse the passage instead of the Tsaritsa. If her partner was the third descender and was, well, no need to sugarcoat it, vivisected in 7 different pieces, or gnosis, then had his entire presence erased from the timeline, I have to ask this, especially if no one else will. If he was erased from the timeline, was the child erased as well? I have to wonder if this is why alchemy is forbidden in Snezhnaya. Because if the third descender was erased from the timeline, completely, then did her child ever really exist at all? If her son was erased from the timeline as a consequence, because of her partner being controlled deleted, then what if before her son's fate was sealed, did she use her powers to possibly freeze her child in time or even memory? Because if all Conrians come from the Tsaritsa, then it's a possibility, even if it's small, that did she not only use her powers, but use her son to create Conrians from her child and use her powers to create life from her son? I don't know. I'm just confused. This is the main question I have. What are your thoughts? Just let me know below on your thoughts, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.
And then, the heavenly principle spoiled our love.
Mother?
I almost doubt whether it was ever true at all. One should not throw fragile driftwood to a drowning person, nor give the illusion of warmth to those freezing to death. Death is not the enemy of love. The real enemy is the blessings given by deluded gods.
Good move. Still, I do hope you truly understand the nature of the game you're playing.